welcome to the Deuce Podcast. I'm Brad.
And I'm Jeremy.
Jeremy, we are doing something special for a couple episodes.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to describe.
Yeah.
How would you describe what we're doing? I think this is going to be fun. I think it's going to be exciting, and we're going to educate some people.
Yeah, we're going to a little educational.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were talking about the fact of how many movies there are that have like a sequel that was not originally intended to be. So
right, like, you know,
American Psycho 2
sequels or produced sequels or
Yeah.
stuff that became something else.
Yes. And there's 3 of them that we've covered that I can think of off the top of my head.
Sort
I know
of,
there's
yeah.
more, but American Psycho 2, they just, jam the references in to the first movie.
Right. It was originally something else.
Yep. Lost Boys 2 was something else.
Same thing.
American Werewolf in Paris.
What was that supposed to be?
It was just some other kind of werewolf movie.
Oh, I thought it was a script that was in like a garbage disposal.
Well, yeah,
And
that's
then they
where it went.
pulled it out and went,
But
it's
that's
a script!
But that's the thing. They're like, the studio buys these and they don't want to waste them. So they're like, well, can we tentatively or like tenuously connect them to the other ones?
Yes. How can we make some money off of them?
Yeah, so there's lots of movies that are like that. But that kind of, we were talking about that, and it got us thinking a little bit about, are there any movies that are like that in the reverse? And we immediately knew one of them. So like we've talked about that.
We talked about that one, but we're not covering that.
Yeah, we're not going to cover
this
it.
time,
But
we
we've talked about it on our show before, and we were like, well, let's see if we can find a list of stuff. So what we're going to be covering for the next X number of shows is what we're going to call Sneak-quels.
Sneak-quels. Tell people what a Sneak-quel is.
A Sneak-quel, as we're coining it, is basically a movie that is not really a sequel. It's not marketed. It doesn't come out as a sequel. It's its own standalone movie, but it was originally intended to be a sequel of a movie.
Either it was intended to or spawned from a different movie, right?
Yes.
The idea, the genesis of it.
Yeah, and through studios or through rewrites or whatever, it became its own individual movie. So these are movies that do not appear to be like the second second in a series of movies.
Right, there's nothing really connected to the movies.
Yeah, but
initially,
the original spirit and intention of like what generated the idea for the movie was that it was to be a sequel.
Right.
So that's what we're covering.
Yes, this is actually episode 153 of the Deuce Podcast.
Yes.
Today we'll be covering E.T.
Yeah.
And you're the Extra-Terrestrial. And you're asking yourself, that's not a sequel. That's a Sneak-quel.
It's a Sneak-quel.
Of Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah.
Now, how do we describe this to people? So, originally, Steven Spielberg was, when he was filming Raiders of the Lost Ark, well, yeah, he was talking about doing a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yep.
And there was a script going around in the 70s that he had, or not, a book that they were turning into a script called Night Skies.
Yes.
Which they were going to make kind of be a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, because Jaws was such a hit that it spawned sequels, but it was without Steven Spielberg.
Yes.
So he was all like, well, crap.
Yeah, I could have done better.
I could have done better.
And so he was going to take a swing at it.
Right, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, that was a big gamble for Columbia Pictures at the time. Mm-hmm. So when it did become such a huge hit, they were like, we want to do a sequel. We also want to have Steven Spielberg's name on it, because we don't want to make the same mistake of Jaws.
Yeah.
Not that Jaws 2 is a terrible movie, and we did do that one earlier in our podcast, but it's not Jaws 1. Right?
Yeah.
So, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the second one was supposed to be reversed. Now, when Steven Spielberg does sequels, he wants it to be the exact kind of opposite of what
he didn't want to keep it in the same vein as
right.
Like, he didn't want to make...
He didn't want a copycat of the original.
Right.
He never does.
And so he wanted to change, like, his idea at the time was that he wanted to change what the genre was with it.
Right.
And so, initially, his idea was, let's do some horror.
The horror movie, right?
Yeah.
Where the aliens come down and sort of befriend a family, but then turn on them in a way, correct?
Yeah. Well, it was going to be based off of... so there was
an experience that they...
Yeah, there was a family... was it in Arkansas, maybe? I'm trying to remember. It was in the southeast United States.
Yes, Kelly Hopkinsville. It's based on the Kelly Hopkinsville encounter.
Yes.
Where a Kentucky family claimed that they had been
that's what it was.
terrorized by gremlin-like aliens.
Yeah. So the story went that these there were lights in the sky, and the lights went into the ground, and then these alien creatures came up from them. And then those terrorized his family and basically made them do things for them and take over, and basically just kind of held them hostage before finally, disappearing. And the family didn't want to be mocked for it, so they, only told so much of the press, apparently.
Right. But so the aliens were pretty much going to kind of take this family kind of hostage.
Yeah.
Some people called night skies straw dogs with aliens.
Yeah. Okay. And so the original, Spielberg starts working on this, and he takes the script and he approaches John Sayles to write. And so he wrote this thing, and it's basically, there were 5 aliens. One of them was kind of dopey and kind of a family kind of alien, like
named Buddy.
Buddy. His name was Buddy. There was 2 of them that were like troublemakers. It was like
Spark or something.
It was like spitting something.
Spittin',
yeah. And then there was like one of them who was kind of, okay. And then there was one named Scar who had long claws.
Probably. Yeah.
And like was killing animals and like was just the bloody one. Like you knew when he was on screen, they'd be in trouble. So he started putting that together. He wanted Lawrence Kasdan to do it originally, but he got John Sayles.
Scar was a character, he was supposed to be a real badass after a Comanche Indian bad guy in the John Wayne film The Searchers.
Yeah, makes sense.
So that makes sense.
And so he is putting this together. They're writing it. They're coming up with this horror movie that goes with it. And he even went as far as to engage Rick Baker to work on it. So here's Rick Baker, who had been working on American Werewolf in London, and done the amazing effects there, and has worked on so many different projects. And so he's putting time and money into this. And Spielberg was like, he was working on Temple of Raiders of the Lost Ark at that time. Yeah. And so he wasn't like, spending a whole lot of time on it, but he kind of kept an eye on it. He also tried to get Tobe Hooper to work on it, and Tobe Hooper turned it down because he was not into aliens.
Yeah, you didn't.
But I'll circle back to that in a second. So Tobe Hooper said no, but I kind of like the idea, but no. And so he's going through everything now. You have Rick Baker toiling away on these sculpts, and they're very interesting looking. And we'll throw some pictures of those up later. But they are very, very interesting looking. And like you could see what he was going for, and you could see how, it would aid to like a horror movie. It almost looked like, for those of you who've seen the movie Pumpkinhead before, it kind of had the look of the character Pumpkinhead. So he's working through all of this. But Spielberg starts having some kind of doubts about the script. Like he's wanting to do this horror movie, and then he starts going, but do I really want to do this? Like, is this right? And so then he decides, he's working on Raiders of the Lost Ark, right. So he decides to ask some people he's
working
with.
on Raiders of the Lost Ark. He says, I was in between killing zombies and blowing up flying wings and having Harrison Ford in all his high serial adventures. I was sitting there scratching my head and saying, I've got to get back to tranquility, or at least spirituality of the Close Encounters kind of feel to it. So he, one day, was talking to Harrison Ford's girlfriend at the time, who would later become his wife, Melissa Matheson, and she read the script for Night Skies, but really gravitated towards the Buddy character.
Yeah.
And said, no, you need to write a script. You need to have a movie about a kid who befriends an alien.
Yeah, because there were, in the original script, there were 3 kids.
Right.
And she was like, the kids.
It was going to be from the kid's point of view.
Yeah, and there was like, it was weird. It had a mix of humor in it. Like, it was really dark, but then it would have this kind of like weird dark humor, or kind of like these like offsetting humorous moments. And here she said, but that's the stuff that really works in the script, is the family-friendly piece of it, you know, the buddy alien, the kids. The kids stuff is great.
Yeah. So he was like, well, then write that and see what, you know.
Yeah.
You come up with. So, you know, she does, and she eventually writes the script for E.T.
Yes.
And he loves it and says, I want to go with that instead. Well, that kind of pisses some people off.
Yeah.
Because
so
they've been working so hard.
Yeah. John Sayles' script is basically shredded apart.
Right.
And Rick Baker is probably the one who it's the worst of the bunch. He gets it the worst. So Rick Baker has been, and these sculpts are meticulous. The prosthetics are just gorgeous. And Rick Baker, you know, pulls no punches. So it looks great. And Spielberg goes, sorry, buddy, we're not using those scary things.
Sorry.
And decides not
to go with it. Do you have anything
more
like turtle-like and kitty-looking that could sell dolls and cereal?
And you can see honestly, you can see Rick Baker's stuff in there. And that's why I kind of
did go that they look like the aliens from Independence Day.
They do kind of
like, yeah, they kind of
a little bit, yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
But it's like, I almost feel like Spielberg kind of ripped him off.
They also have a little bit of Gremlins to them too.
Yeah, they do. But in any case, he's like, peace out, Rick Baker. Well, Rick Baker already spent like $700,000 on like sculpting and all the materials and like getting these things put together. Like, he's gone full bore on Steven Spielberg's word that this is what they're doing. And then they pull the plug, and so now he's out like $700,000. And so Spielberg wasn't going to pay him for that. And so that caused this huge rift. So Rick Baker wouldn't work with Steven Spielberg after that.
So that's why we're saying that this is not necessarily a sequel to Close Encounters of the Third Kind, but the genesis of it came from the original movie of Close Encounters.
Yeah.
In fact, Night Skies is a film that would later be put on, you know, hiatus, obviously.
Yeah.
Because it would later be more of the idea of E.T. and then later on Poltergeist as well.
Right.
Of the family that gets tormented.
Yeah, so that's the Tobe Hooper
where we
piece.
come back with Tobe Hooper.
Yeah,
right?
so Tobe Hooper had been pitching some ideas and working with the John Sayles script and said, like, look, I don't like the alien stuff, but what if it was like ghosts? And Spielberg was like, okay, okay, I can get behind that. And so then they took that and made it into Poltergeist. So the family that gets terrorized by the aliens, instead they're getting terrorized by ghosts. So the original script of these aliens rising from the ground and terrorizing them then became, when they added the ghost aspect in, became Poltergeist.
Right.
So Poltergeist itself is also kind of got its genesis from Night Skies.
And then Gremlins later on is more a genesis of E.T.
So they started to then play around with an idea of an E.T. 2, again, where they would use Baker's aliens, his 5 aliens again, kind of coming back to that idea. And then they again scrapped it and instead made it into Gremlins.
Now we find this very fascinating. We find not only the whole idea of Sneak-quels, the whole idea of the fact that a movie itself that might have been a sequel would later then become something else. Like, we love that. And we have found more that we're going to cover. But this itself is just so full of layers on top of layers of just, you know, ways of, like, how he took the script and was like, no, I'm not going to do that now.
Yeah.
Because of an experience they had and the fact that he himself was, like, his parents are going through divorce. So he himself was going through the whole idea of divorce or abandonment in that of those
Spielberg's
issues.
was?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And that's the genesis of also through E.T. So
right,
he wanted that aspect put in there. And that's why you get the Dee Wallace character in E.T. with the father being abandoning, the family and whatnot.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that once we get into the movie. Obviously, this is a movie that there's a lot of people who've seen this, so we will not cover the movie as much as the idea of the Sneak-quel is concerned, right? Because obviously, there's a lot of people that have seen E.T.
Yeah.
If not over and over again.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we might talk about some little fan theories, if not, that even might kind of have, not genesis of Close Encounters, but may, in fact, in themselves be influences of other things as well. Because it's not like Spielberg doesn't have does not influence other things.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? So that's what's interesting. So hopefully we're educating people with these next few episodes. I love this. I think this is a great idea. I don't think we need a plot synopsis. People know what E.T. is.
Yeah.
It's basically a ripoff of the movie Mac and Me.
Yeah. Yes. The love child of a turtle and a California raisin terrorizes the countryside.
Right. Correct.
With screaming and waddling around.
Directed by that guy from Blues Brothers.
Yes. Co-starring that drunk child.
Who now has a talk show.
Okay. So I will say, like, I kind of want to talk about this in the perspective of, like, as an adult.
An adult.
It has been
forever since I've seen this movie.
It has had to have been at least 30 years since I've seen this.
I haven't seen this as much as a lot of people.
Yeah.
I've seen this maybe 3 times. Once, probably 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And then when I was younger, obviously, when,
Yeah.
I don't think I ever saw it in the movie theater. I think I saw it at my Aunt Leslie's.
Yeah.
But that's about it. Probably 3 or 4 times.
I think I only remember seeing it like a couple of times when I was real little. And then I had a Viewmaster of it.
Yeah.
But when you do the Viewmaster, you only get the kind of like cutesy moments.
Right.
You
I don't remember that
crazy
beginning.
Shit.
This beginning I don't remember very well.
No, I don't either.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
With the people like searching and then all the other
I mean, it's kind of like, what's going on? It looks neat.
Around.
I mean, it looks very interesting visually.
Yeah, sort of. But like, if I'm not really, I guess I would really want to hear the perspective of someone younger watching E.T. for the first time.
Yeah,
and not like younger, like a kid, but like like more into a generation.
Yeah,
not like cynical, but like in a way that's like, well, this is kind of weird.
This all wrong.
Yeah, like this is a movie that got made. Do you know what I mean?
Should we pause this and redo it with a kid?
Yeah, it's just like, it seems odd that this is a movie that would get made and then become popular and then spawn off like some really weird shit like Mac and Me, where we're like, oh, I'm gonna make E.T., but I'm gonna make it really shitty.
So like, I remember as a kid, the parts that I remember are Gertie screaming and him screaming, him hiding in the closet
with when he's in drag,
when he's got like when he looks like Agra from the Dark Crystal.
Smells like Elsie.
When they go trick or treating, or go out,
when they go to McDonald's and Jennifer Aniston's there, that's Mac and Me.
Exactly
Sorry.
Right. But it's stuff like that. It's just those cutesy, them on the bikes flying over whatever, him going home, doing the ET phone home. It's
right, but like when I was younger, it's kind of cute. But now that I'm older, I get more of what this movie really is.
Yeah,
and the impact that it does have, especially towards the end of the movie.
Yeah,
when it just gut punches you and just goes, guess what? It's not just a cutesy movie. It's about like letting go and abandonment and kind of growing up and really fast. And
I mean, it's the more letting go of your child.
Right, and letting go of your childhood.
He's letting go of those things from his childhood. It's like Puff the Magic Dragon.
Yeah,
with a turtle.
With a turtle-looking alien.
Yeah.
Yeah, we spawned a bunch of video games that no one liked, and they hid them.
Oh my god! They buried him in the desert.
They buried him.
Terrible.
God, it's so crazy that happened. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot that we can talk about this movie.
Yeah.
A lot of it has been already said, like the divorce aspect of it, just the whole family unit. I would actually want to talk about to you, like who the main villain is in this movie, because obviously I don't think it's the medical people. There's moments where you don't see a lot of it's from the kid's point of view, obviously.
Yeah.
So you don't see teachers, you don't see people of authority a lot, like FBI agents. Then you get this guy with keys.
Yeah.
Who then, towards the end of the movie becomes this surrogate father in a way for Elliot and stuff like that. And there's like this weird scene that he has that I want to talk about. But first, I'll talk about that. How there's this like surrogateness of him.
Yeah.
And that the only name they give him is Keys.
Yeah.
Because we see Keys. Some people have this fan theory that that's Elliot from the future, which is really weird to me. That would be like your fan theory.
Yeah.
But some people say, oh, because he has that scene where he's like, I'm glad he found you first.
Yeah.
I've been waiting since 10.
Since I was 10
for this. I don't know what that means, if he's had an experience with aliens before that or what. We have a backstory there that obviously this movie doesn't go into.
Right.
That kind of fascinates me more as an adult than it did, as a child.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I feel like... So I feel like when
you're a kid,
he's the
villain.
When I was a kid, I associated with Elliot. Like,
right, you were supposed to.
He was just his magical friend and whatever. Like, but like I get once we meet Keys and you realize like he's not necessarily a bad guy
because he's not the villain,
right? And when he says I've been waiting for this since I was 10, I really get to feel like, he's we get the idea that Elliot has to let go of his of that wonder of that childhood mystery of it's a growing up story. But I think that Keys also has to represent for an adult where he goes, I've been waiting for this since I was 10, meaning that like as much as he's gotten rid of whatever and he's grown up and he's now an adult, he always has had that still sense of that. So it's not like he's ever going to be gone. And E.T. even tells him at the end, I'll always be here.
Right.
And points to
That's why I'm like, the whole fan theory, that's a nice fan theory, but it's just a theory of like, that's Elliot from the future, because obviously, how could it be?
Yeah. And I mean, I could see it, but it seems like an awful reach.
That's a stretch to me.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think there's that scene where they're breaking in, he's, the brother has saved E.T. He's all gray looking. Looks like a thumb that's been underwater for too long, but like a raisin, just And the government comes in and they're like in these hazmat suits, but they walk like zombies, which is the weirdest thing to me. But even I don't think that they're the real true villain of the story. I think the real true villain of the story is Elliot's father.
Yeah,
and he's the person that you don't see, and this is what makes this movie to me even more important than just a normal movie, is that that's so powerful that you have this moment where that he has to let go of not only his best friend, which just happens to be this crazy alien, but in a way he is attached to the alien, but also surrogately through Keys in a way.
Yeah.
Because he becomes almost a surrogate father real quickly.
Yeah.
Not that he's like dating his mom.
Right.
All of a sudden. But it just becomes this where he has to just let go of his anger of his father.
Yeah.
Who I think is the real true villain of this movie. I don't know if you...
And I think that like he was, E.T. is also healing him in other ways.
Yeah. And E.T.'s family didn't really abandon him, but like they did in a way.
But they came back.
But they came back.
But his dad isn't going to.
Right.
Well, and like the whole, and I paid zero attention to Dee Wallace when I first watched this, outside of her being a mom.
Right.
Like you always have that character where it's like the mom who's, oblivious to stuff or, for whatever kind of relief. And it was like I was watching her.
She's so underrated in this.
Yeah, like I was watching her and I was going, I wish I knew, like, she's obviously having a hard time. She's had to leave her kids a bunch because she has to work and do all of this.
Right.
When Elliot's like, he's in Mexico, Dad's in Mexico with whoever, basically his girlfriend.
Bimbo,
he ran
whatever.
off with. Yeah. And she's just like very upset. And like the older brother is just like, dude, what is wrong with you? Well, it's not his. Like, why should he have to, Michael gets it because Michael's closer to
he's older. And
Elliot doesn't quite understand yet. But like seeing T. Baker deal with that and trying to deal with everything else. And then there's like the Halloween scene where she's dressed up and you see her just sitting at home alone, like snuffing out candles and whatever else. And she's kind of like, ugh, and then she finally takes off.
True.
And they never say where she's going, but I'm like, obviously she's either going to some sort of a party or going out to hook up or whatever.
Or something.
Like, yeah. I'm like,
something adult.
Yeah. And so I'm just like, I'm very fascinated by the adults in the peripheral of this world because we don't know what is happening to them outside of their home. Like we don't focus on that.
Yeah, not really. We just get the little glimpses.
Well, but that's part of the whole thing with Spielberg. Like when he filmed this, if you notice, like all the cameras are from very low angles. Because it's supposed to be from the kid's point of view. So they wanted it to be in the eye line of the kids. So like the adults look towering. The teachers, you don't see their faces. Yeah. I mean, if there would have been a trombone player in there, it would have been a Peanuts gag. But
my favorite is when I said to you, I go, is Elliot too Goonies for the Goonies? To where they were like, nah, we don't even want you to be a Goonie. Like that's kind of like kind of nerdy is in a way. Yeah. So it's so great.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean those are my theories are more that the father is kind of like
the father is the villain.
Yeah, because he just left his family
and
for Mexican bimbo lady, whatever her name is.
I always thought that
but I never even got that when I was younger because like obviously when
I was young it was a throwaway line. When he says it now I went like, oh my god, like I never realized. And even like you get like it was interesting to me like the doctors, like I'm so used to in these science fiction movies, like you get doctors who are like an alien murder
them.
Yeah, like
we need to cut them open.
Yeah, you just want to kill it and dissect it. But they were like, no, try to save its life. Like they're
they really
to help
are like like George Clooney ER, like trying to save his life.
And when they think he's dead, and they all take off their masks and they're like, but again, I think it's like their sense of wonderment. Like it's almost like their piece of childhood, or like they're all very interested in keeping this alive, and the only people who like are like rah, 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 are the actual like FBI agents.
Yeah, like FBI agents and the cops and anything of authority would obviously be because they want to protect. And all that. But you were saying how like you were watching Dee Wallace. I was actually watching Michael, the brother, a lot in this movie, and I was like, you know what? I didn't give him enough credit because there's like this scene where when E.T.'s kind of like on his deathbed. I don't mean to laugh at that. Sorry. E.T. on his deathbed.
When he looks like a dried out dog.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. When he looks like a jelly baby that's been through the wash like 400 times.
looks like a damp peanut M&M.
And he's just like, there's just like a certain, because he has to be the man of the house.
Yeah.
But he's still a kid.
Yeah.
And I noticed like when he was like, he's the one that saved him in the park, or not the park, the woods.
Yeah.
And then I noticed, like, when he goes and he's just like, I feel bad. I wish I could have done more. And he goes to, like, the closet area where all the toys are.
Yeah.
And falls asleep there.
Yeah.
Such a great moment that I never really even kind of paid attention to.
Yeah.
To where he's just like, he's still a kid.
Yeah.
That there is that innocence there that like, he had that taken away from him.
Yeah.
So quickly because of his dad. Like, everyone's been, affected by this character that we don't even know, that we've never seen before.
Yep.
And I thought that was such a nice, sweet moment. There's a lot, like, you talk about Spielberg, like, less is more. That really is a scene where less is more. Where, like, you get a lot out of that character.
Yeah.
And it's really not a lot, that you see.
Well,
like, I like that. It's not just necessarily,
right.
We don't see the shark until, 20 minutes into the movie.
Like with Michael too, where he backs the car down the driveway, where and then later he has to drive, and he's like, but I've never driven forward. Like, I've always just gone back. He's trying to help and trying to do what he can, but he's just a kid. And so it's like, you forget a lot of that.
Yes, but he's had to, like,
and that was when he starts driving away, and then Elliot kills those guys who are getting dragged.
And then Elliot like pulls and kills those guys in the tube.
Can I tell you?
Great.
I'm very thankful that we saw that they put out the version again that has actual guns.
Oh yeah, I actually am too. I'm actually better with that.
Yeah,
because that's, to me, more realistically.
Yeah.
In comparison to just kind of like, no, let's just take the guns out.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, well, that's dumb.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense that there would be. Like I'm saying, Law and Order should be law. Like, that's your job. Like, even though, like,
they had the guns, but it's not like menacingly. And I think
it's not
more like, why not put them in? Because the kids today have seen so much worse.
Right.
Like, you don't. Why pull punches and pretend that doesn't exist?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm glad that we saw, like, a version that showed, the real cut of it.
And I'm glad we saw the version where Drew Barrymore's drunk during the whole movie.
She's so
I'm
cute
just
in
joking.
this movie.
You're right. Like, you were telling me, like, when we were off mic, that you're like, well, she is really good in this.
Yeah.
Like, she plays the part really well.
Yeah, she's
as a
adorable.
very young kid actor, she really hits it out of the park. There's a reason why she's big, and she's,
and also a Deuce alum. Charlie's Angels too.
Charlie's Angels too, I guess. Sure.
She wasn't that.
Well, yeah, but again, this is not a sequel, but it's just, it's
when we talk about her, she's an alum.
It's a Sneak-quel.
Sneak-quel.
It's a Saturday night sequel. Sneak-quel.
Snoo Sneaks.
Snoo Sneaks. Snoo Sneaks. The Silver Surfer.
Silver Surfer. So, okay. But, yeah, I mean, it just, I think from it as a perspective, it's just like watching The Breakfast Club as an adult, and I was just like, oh my god.
Why are we...
Oh my god, now I identify with the adults. Yeah.
Bender is awful in that movie.
Yeah.
And yet, like, it's just so bad. I can't go on with that.
Right.
I'm not going to.
It's just, but it's, it's
only
good
rewatch
to,
characters like, I guess I'm supposed to be with you.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Yeah, right. It's good to see these things from a different perspective too, because, like, from especially being an adult and seeing them, and you're like, wow.
You should watch movies. Like, you should watch these movies as an adult.
Yeah.
Because there is that, like, we talk about the whole, retro aspect of these movies.
Yeah.
Where you're like, well, that was so beloved when I was younger.
Yeah.
But you should watch these as an adult.
Yeah.
Just to get a different look about, from them.
I was...
Because you're going to have a different experience as an adult than you are, obviously, as a child. And if you have a child, you should watch.
I was very surprised. So I was like, wait a minute. So they went through and, like, digitally edited out all the guns at one point.
Mm-hmm.
But they left Henry Thomas calling Michael penis breath.
Yeah, penis breath.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's almost seems like you would do the opposite.
And also, like, there was moments with Michael before that too, where I was talking about, where they're like making fun of Elliot.
Yeah.
Oh, we from Uranus?
Yeah.
Where's your alien from Uranus?
Yeah.
And then Michael, which I'm like, Michael, like, you need to defend your brother. You know the thing's real.
Yeah.
Like, just be like, shut up. But then he's on the bus, and like people, are being unruly, and he's just kind of like sitting there going, "Oh crap! How do I like?"
The kids are being kids, and he looks like a businessman with an ulcer. Like he's just like he's unloosening in his tie and taking a drink of Maalox. But he grew up too quickly,
though. Yeah, he is that character that represents that. We just don't talk about that because Elliot is more the focus that we really talk about, because he's the one that is the main character. Yeah, it's great. I love it. Yeah. Yeah, good times.
Okay.
Good times. Great movies.
So, we usually talk through our 5 questions.
We can still talk about them.
We do.
We might need to phrase them differently.
What do you think is the best part of this movie?
The ending. No. In fact, the ending is the best part. Not the credits, but the whole aspect of coming all together. You get like this weird kind of family dynamic. Even Keys is there to say goodbye to E.T. So there is this like really weird moment where it's like a matriarch and patriarch and family are there saying goodbye to this character.
Yeah.
And just the way that Henry Thomas knocks it out of the park as a young actor, where you like really feel for him. It really is the best part of this movie because it gut punches you and makes it elevates it to more than just a kid's movie. It becomes more, like an art house film in a way.
Yeah.
Obviously it's not, but you can understand like this. There's a reason why this movie has resonated so many years. Do you know what I mean? There are movies that come around every so often, and one of those is like Wizard of Oz, and E.T. is like one of them, where it's just the whole fantasy of it and the whole magicalness of it.
Yes.
Becomes just, part of it. And it just entertains people for years and decades.
Yeah.
I think the ending for me is the best part.
And I would, I would agree with that too. Like, and I did not, again, and I've said this a bunch of times, I did not appreciate this at the time. Like when I was young.
That's weird that you didn't appreciate. I appreciated it. I just didn't know what I was watching.
I didn't care
really
two shits about E.T. when I was younger, outside of like my little film reel thing. Did not care about it.
Well, it's because you always see them flying. Like they always show the clip of them flying in the bikes, and you're like, that's magical and all, but that's not all of what E.T. really is.
Right.
So yeah, I don't.
I was
blame you.
When I was a little kid, I was also not into very much like, I don't know, like I wasn't really
into feelings.
Yeah, I mean,
honestly,
I watched a lot of like, I used to watch like the McNeil Era News Hour and like stuff.
What?
I did. I used to watch that when I was a kid.
Okay.
Because I thought I should be kept up on the news.
Right.
It was bad. But I mean, not that I didn't watch cartoons and shit like that, but like, something like E.T. just didn't resonate with me at the time.
Which is weird because this is a movie kind of, of you growing up a little faster too.
Right, but do you understand though why I wouldn't have associated
No, I understand it very much closely.
Because I was already
living that.
Yeah, like I already had to be a grown up when I was a kid.
Sure.
So being, the kid aspect and the growing up part didn't make sense to me because I was already kind of having to do that.
Yeah.
So, but that being said, like as an adult and having a newer appreciation for things and being able to look back at that, I'm like, oh my God, like I get it now. I get it from the perspective of the kid and having to grow up and kind of shed those things off and grow up too fast. And I really appreciate it from the perspective of the adults where it's like, we've all had to do that where we say goodbye to that. Those kind of, even though they never truly leave us, even like E.T. said, I'll always be in here. You always will have that, but you've had to let that stuff go.
You have to let it go in order to be part of you.
Yeah.
It's really odd to say it like that, but it's a grown up thing.
Yep.
And it's
And so, like, that really, I was like, wow, okay, like, I get it now. Like, now that I'm grown up and I can look at it, and now that I also have a better understanding of myself, like, as an adult, looking back on myself as a child and, like, what I experienced and what I went through, I'm just like, I get why I didn't get it back then, but I do get it now, and I definitely appreciate that. So, like, I do think, like, the whole thing was, I get, like, the magic of all of it, and, like, everything I was seeing, and, like, the performances are just good in general, you know?
Yeah. But there is that aspect of the fact that this wasn't the original aspect of what this movie was going to be, and that also is kind of a shame. Yeah. But we do get this movie in that process, so that's good. Yeah. But, you know, a horror movie by Steven Spielberg is not, you know, something I would not see. I would love that, you know.
Okay, well, okay. So, normally we ask, do you think this movie stands on its own? Well, clearly it's not connected to the first one, so I'm going to change it up. I'm going to flip the script on us.
I answered. Yes.
Well, quite yes, it does. Is the connection to the original movie this would have been a sequel to, is that connection clear?
The original Night Skies is clear, not the Close Encounters part of it, but the original aspect of from the kid's point of view, and the alien being part of like not befriending, but like coming down to Earth. Yeah. And kind of having that invasion part. Yeah. The Night Skies does, but not Close Encounters. I don't think that necessarily does. Yeah. Although, if you were going to have a Close Encounters of the Third Kind #2, wouldn't it then be Richard Dreyfuss's character coming down with aliens to say, no, they are peaceful, they're here for you, you know, and then having that whole aspect of, are they not? Yeah. You know, so maybe. But I say the original script of Night Skies, yes. Close Encounters, no. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got what you're saying. Yeah. Now, see, I could see it. I guess my whole thing is I don't even get a real good clear connection of Night Skies and Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I think necessarily
they seem very different to me, and not just the genre. Yeah. But okay, so they came down and did all these things and took him back, and so now they're sending back other aliens who are like, yeah, we're gonna tear your shit up.
Yeah, I think you would need a prequel of Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Yeah, not a sequel.
So see, this to me seems closer to being a sequel to Close Encounters than Night Sky does, because
me too. Because I guess I get what you're saying.
The Close Encounters aliens, like, you know, when they ended up, they took Richard Dreyfuss with them and did all this. Like, I could see them being that same kind of like they're visiting Earth and being exploratory. When they show up, they lose ET and have it based off of that. And actually, I think it would have worked out better if Richard Dreyfuss was Elliot's dad, so he leaves with the aliens, and then there's that like, dad left. We got this turd with turtle feet, waddling around.
Yeah, or if he was Keys or something, like, but that would have been weird too. Yeah. Then you got the whole, that would have been dumb. Yeah. So, yeah, but I you know what? Kind of like if that was Elliot's dad, maybe. Yeah. You're right on that.
I could see this being closer. Like, I feel like this is more in the like spiritual sense, like tied to the same thing Spielberg was saying. Like, they had Night Skies, and he's like, guys, I don't feel the same like spiritual connection, because Close Encounters was almost this like spiritual experience. Yes,
but we don't know a lot about the aliens except they really like.
Yeah, they really like first wave.
Yes, music,
new wave music.
Yeah, or they like music that sounds like a Simon game. Yeah,
and he communicates with Speak and Spell on ET. So
that's true.
Yeah. The aliens are from Planet Parker Brothers.
We are from Planet Parker Brothers.
No, but like,
get a clue, everyone.
I feel this has like,
that was comedy gold.
There's like this element of hopefulness and like mystery and like, you know, the great unknown in Close Encounters. And I feel the same thing really in E.T. with a lot of that too. Like there is like it's got this like spiritual, like, you're going to be okay. You know, you're going to have to let go of these things and this is going to happen, but you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
And I get that feeling like it's going to be okay with this. I read about night skies and I'm like, this sounds like a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, this sounds like a nightmare. It really does.
And so that's why I don't see the connection between night skies and
I only see the connection of night skies through like the not the original aspect or the tone, but the ideas somewhat are there, not necessarily the follow through.
Well, there's a scene it talks about where like Scar is standing on the side
I'm
of
not
the road.
talking about Scar. I'm talking about Buddy.
Oh yeah, with Buddy. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where I get the ET connection. Nothing else.
Yeah.
I really get. I just don't know the aliens very well in Close Encounters.
Yeah.
And that's what, like, I don't know what happens to Richard Dreyfuss's character
when
he boards a ship. No one does.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They immediately devour him.
Right. Like, we don't know that. Oh, we've feasted and now we don't care for another 20 years.
At the beginning, E.T.'s people are just like taking plant samples.
Yeah.
You know, for they're horticulturists or whatever.
I don't know. We don't know that either, really. We don't know much about them.
Yeah. Except
they're in the Star Wars.
Yeah, except they
family.
Well, and that whole thing is confounding too.
That's really weird.
Where he, of course, Melissa Matheson puts a bunch of Star Wars references in there. And so he's talking about Star Wars to E.T., and then like later E.T. sees a kid in a Yoda mask and is like reacts very strongly to it. And so people are like, "Ooh, what does that mean?"
She was like, "Maybe Keys could be my husband."
And so, but he put, but then later they put the E.T. aliens in Star Wars in the Phantom Menace. But that would that mean that?
But then that's so stupid because it's so complicated.
Yeah, that's agreed. Dumb. But it's like, wait a minute, but they're referencing something and then they're
that they know about.
Yeah. Unless it's in like some sort of like, you know, universal consciousness of some kind or whatever. But that's weird too. But that would also explain how he like levitates crap because he's using the Force.
Because he's using the Force.
Yeah,
correct. I mean, some people just think that's just what the aliens do.
Yeah.
But what if that's the Force?
Yeah. What if it is?
You know, and what if he's using the Force to connect himself to Elliot?
Yeah.
You know, through all that too.
And I mean, he does that with the other aliens. And, you know, he can heal them, which is, you know, like using the, I guess, midichlorians. No, using the life force to fix them.
That's, sort of, whatever.
Does this make you want to watch Close Encounters of the Third
Kind? Anything will make me, mashed potatoes make me want to watch Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
That's true.
This means something.
Getting abducted makes me want to.
I like Close Encounters, but again, one of those movies I saw when I was younger. Need to go back when I'm older and watch that and probably get more appreciation for it.
Agreed.
So I think it does.
I've watched more Close Encounters than this, but I don't think I've watched it since we've been together.
I honestly think Close Encounters was on television more. I don't know. This was on television too a lot, but the Close Encounters was on.
Yeah.
For a long time.
It was like a lot of times they had like a Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, like USA or something would play Close Encounters, and I'd watch it.
Yeah. Yep. No, I've seen Close Encounters a bunch, but I would definitely watch it again. It's been a little while. It's been a hot minute. So now normally
it's been a New York hot minute for me.
Normally we talk about reboot, continue, or cancel. But I want to say,
why not continue?
Continue.
Yeah, I answered. Go ahead.
ET2. Would you rather have seen this or the intended sequel?
This. The intended sequel seems like you said, just a mess.
Yeah.
Just like, it just seems like that's not a Spielberg enough movie.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, maybe I would watch a Spielberg horror movie. We saw Jaws as a horror movie. So
yeah,
yes,
Jaws is a horror movie.
He can do a horror movie. You know, in a way, Jurassic Park is.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
So there is, I just think it's too dark. for a Spielberg movie.
I mean, it talked about
and I think that would be
full on scenes of animals getting mutilated.
I mean, we have Bridge of Spies. Can we just have that?
Yeah, we can just watch Bridge of Spies.
Well, that's just a movie with a bridge of spies.
Yeah, the musical Bridge of Spies. We're a bridge of spies.
We're on a bridge of spies. This whole bridge is full of spies.
Okay, I also think I would rather watch this than the other one. It sounded all over the board. And they talk about there's dark humor things, think of the original script. They kill an old lady or something. She hits one in the head with a broom.
Yeah.
And then they fight back. Yeah. Or hit her so hard, and then a piece of her dentures flies into somebody's drink or something like that.
Yes.
Very weird.
And her name was Mrs. Doubtfire.
But it seems like they're just be aggressively violent, and then have a little bit of black humor, and then kid humor.
I think you just described Gremlins.
It kind of, but it's all over the freaking place.
Yeah, I think because obviously that was Joe Dante, wasn't that Gremlins?
Yeah.
I just feel that this movie, that movie Night Skies, I think has too many aliens. I don't know. For me, having a whole 5 aliens kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's too much for me.
Well, okay, so it reminds me. There's a movie that it reminds me of.
Back in Me?
No.
Not E.T.? Well, we weren't talking about E.T., sure.
But I haven't seen it forever, and it made me think of it when they talked about the 5 different aliens and and each alien had a different power.
Yes, and that was
the other thing. So weird. But then it reminded me of the movie Space Invaders.
Okay. Which is funny because the brother was wearing he was talking about Space Invaders, the video game.
Yeah, it was Patrick Reed Johnson was the director. Mm. And so I think was the director of it. But yeah, so he was a writer and director. But yeah, so he it's 5 aliens come down and they basically terrorize this little town and everything. And I'm just it almost seems like they got the idea.
Probably got the idea from it.
And we're just what was this going to be? And just
they were probably what was it going to be? And they brushed it off.
Or they found the script and were just and just redid it. So it wasn't recognizable.
Who's this Spielberg guy? Written by Steven Spielberg. What? Screw it. Let's do it. We'll call it Space Invaders.
Let's do it. We're doing it.
Someone grab my teeth, wouldn't you?
All right, he is the director of Baby's Day Out.
Who was that? Who directed that? That was John Hughes.
Patrick Reed Johnson.
Okay, I thought it was John Hughes. John Hughes wrote that or something.
What?
Baby's Day Out? What was Baby's Day Out?
It was a John Hughes movie.
That's a John Hughes movie, I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't.
The worst thing that John Hughes did?
John Hughes wrote it. Oh, it is the worst thing. Yeah. John Hughes wrote it, but Patrick Reed Johnson directed it.
Is there a Baby's Day Out 2? Is there a sequel to that? Can we do that?
Oh, I really hope not.
We are going to do that one.
I wonder if this was the sequel to something.
This was actually the sequel. This was the intended sequel for Baby's Day Out. Called Aliens Day In.
Whee! All right. Okay. So finally, sum up your experience in 2 words.
Reboot, by the way. Reboot.
You want to reboot
it? Timeless classic. This is a timeless classic. Watching this movie for the first time in about 20 years, knowing that this is from the 80s, by the way, even though I knew it was, and the products were from the 80s, I didn't really, time didn't play a factor to me, right?
Yeah.
I didn't really feel like it was an 80s movie. I didn't care about that.
No, not at all.
It was just so timeless that the movie holds up pretty well. So in my opinion, and just like I said earlier, there's certain movies like Wizard of Oz, Willy Wonka, the wonderment of it all, that to me, timeless classic is the 2 words.
Yeah.
But really, you know what I mean? You didn't really get. You could just watch this now and be like, oh, these are kids just from now, just with, I don't necessarily know if that's because I think Stranger Things is more 80s than this.
Yeah.
To tell you the truth.
Yeah.
But that's...
Stranger Things is a nostalgia circle.
Nostalgia thing, yeah. But, but go ahead.
I just say growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like you have characters who are being forced to grow up like prematurely, but then there's this moment of like everybody is growing in some way. Like, Dee Wallace is becoming, before she's kind of lost without that help, but she's becoming a stronger parent and a stronger mother through this. The brother is growing up. I mean, Gertie is growing. Everybody is growing up. Even Keys is growing up through this. Like everybody's doing that, and in a way, like E.T. is physically healing their wounds, but he's also kind of healing them all and helping them to get to that next level. I think it's a good metaphor for all of that. Like, it's stuff that I, again, didn't get when I was young, but now watching this and looking back, I'm like, yes, I totally get this, and I totally get why this movie is important.
Why it's one of the best movies of all time.
I get why it's got that classic thing. And honestly, and I know this sounds terrible, but like forever I've just been like, it's okay. Like I didn't. You know what?
Because we kind of, there is that cynical-ofness of like, well, everyone knows that. Yeah. So you kind of just throw it away as something that everyone knows. Oh, it's kind of overrated. And this is overrated.
Yeah.
In the aspect of that there's other stuff that's really, really, really good. But this is just timeless.
Yeah.
This is something that will last
I think
forever.
When I was a kid...
Do you know what I mean?
That's
what makes it really good.
It did not... it didn't resonate with me.
Mm-hmm.
But this is definitely a movie that if I had kids... If we had
Very
kids,
so.
I would be like, let's watch this together. And I think that would be a wonderful experience. So
very much so. Well, you've been deuced on that one. Sorry, I just been drinking water. Nothing terrible. Where can people find us, Jeremy?
People can find us at the deucepodcast.podbean.com.
What's with you now?
deucepodcast.podbean.com. You can find us on Google Play, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, a lot of those podcatchers like that. You can also find us at thenophonynetwork.com. We have all sorts of different people on there. Whether it's reading, whether it's drama, whether it's comedy, whether it's sports, there's something for everybody. So please check out our podcast network there. Otherwise, you can also find us on Facebook at The Deuce. You can also find us on Twitter at Deuce Podcast.
All right. You've been deuced on that one. Join us next week when we will be talking about the movie version of the 1979 novel Nothing Lasts Forever. Find out what that Sneak-quel is next week. Little tip for you there. Ooh. Go ahead, Google that. All right. And remember, folks, nothing does last forever because we're done. And the sequel is king.
Sneak-quel is king.
The Sneak-quel is king. Sneak-quels.
Test, 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 test. I am testing my audio.
I am also testing my audio the way E.T. would. Elliot.
I'm doing my whole podcast like this.
Way too quickly in your cadence.
Chakotay. This is... If it's faster, it's Kate Mulgrew. When it's drawn out, it's E.T.